I am Raziel.
What's up, guys? Raziel here, and as you can see, I've changed it up a little bit, moved the camera around. I thought it would give a better view, a better angle, if you will, of me when I'm streaming and making videos if I looked head on. So as you can see, I moved my Shadowbringers poster around, I moved some shit around so that the background is more aesthetically pleasing and hopefully not distracting. But anyway, it's enough of that. And yes, before I get comments in the comment section about what's on my shirt, because they can see that. That's all people can see up there. It's one of my t-shirts, and it's actually quite relevant to what I'm going to talk about today. So Shadowbringers has been out. Now keep in mind this video is completely unscripted, right? So I may ramble on a little bit. Apologies first and foremost, but Shadowbringers has been out now for a week. Officially a week, not counting early access. A week and a half if you count early access. And we have a good idea of where a lot of jobs sit, where a lot of things are. So I have some of the data here in front of me. You can find it's very easily accessible on Final Fantasy logs. Again, fuck the meta. I'm not all about making, every single job. What's important to me, I guess, is every single job should be fun, and every single job in the game should be able to complete the content, which I think, as of now, complete the content, that's true. But jobs that are harder to play, have a higher skill ceiling or a much higher skill floor, things like that, that you have to play really well, need to be rewarded as such. And I think there's a few outliers, definitely, that are not that way. And I know Square Enix is definitely aware of it. So hold on one second. Razi, dog, stop it. He's biting the floor. Anyway, guys. So here is what I think we should expect to come from Square Enix in the first small balance pass. It's going to be coming probably Tuesday of next week when the normal mode raids come out. I think we'll see some changes, but these are changes overall that I expect and I predict to come about within 2 weeks after Savage launches. So in the next 4 to 5 weeks, I think, is when the majority of the changes I'm going to say I think we're going to see. I could be wrong about some. A lot of this is a little bit opinion-based, but also I think a lot of it is based in what I've seen Square do in the past, so experience, and what I think they're going to try to do. So if you aren't familiar right now where things are, you can find it. I'll leave a link in the description below where I'm getting my data. So it's in the section here of generally where things are at. Damage-wise, but there's other things to take into account. Utility and also mitigation for tanks, which isn't taken into consideration on Final Fantasy logs, at least on these meters anyway. So let's start with tanks, and I'll tell you what I think is going to happen. Right now, all 4 tanks are very close to each other damage-wise. They're very close to each other mitigation-wise, with the exception of Paladin is quite above everybody else with that. But overall, tank balance has been better than it's ever been, I think, in Final Fantasy. But I still do expect some changes. The changes I expect to see is some potency buffs going out for Warrior and Dark Knight. I think we're going to see some slight potency buffs for those 2 jobs, because I feel like those 2 jobs should be doing the most amount of this raw damage. I think Gunbreaker might get some slight potency nerfs, though I wouldn't count on it, and I don't think it's a bad thing if they don't get any potency nerfs. But I do think that they need some slight defensive CD buffs, which may come in the balance patches to come here very shortly in the next month and a half. So Paladin, however, expect to see some damage nerfs to Paladin. Paladin right now, if played optimally, far outpaces Gunbreaker, Warrior, and Dark Knight in damage. And you might ask, well, what's wrong with that? Well, there would be nothing wrong with that, but Paladin has the best defensive cooldown kit. They bring by far the most utility and the most defensive CDs to a fight. They can't have both. They can't be the best damage and also have the best cooldowns. I don't think Square wants it that way. I personally don't want it that way. I think you can expect to see their potency go down a little bit. Not a whole lot. I don't think they need a major nerf. I just think they need to be brought in line a little bit on their damage. I think because they have such good utility and defensives that the tanks that don't have as good should be doing more damage than them. I mean, I think that's just how it should be, and I think that's the direction Square is going to go. But overall, I think tanks are in a really good place as a whole. Now we're going to go into range DPS. By far and above, Black Mage is the strongest DPS in the game right now. Not just ranged melee, ranged caster, sorry. Just in general, they're the best. They do the most damage by far, by a large margin. And I'm okay with that because they are like the casting equivalent of Samurai. I'll get into Samurai in a little bit because right now Samurai's not doing so hot. But I'm fine with Black Mage being where they are. I don't think they need a nerf because they don't bring a whole lot of utility to the group. They're just there to stand and find the smallest little specks of pixels to stand in to not get hit by mechanics and cast. That's what Black Mages do. So I think Black Mage should stay where it is. Whether or not, if it receives anything, it might be some potency nerfs, but we'll see. I don't think they need it. I like that that's what they're good at, and that's what they do. And I don't even really play a Black Mage at all. Summoner, I think we're going to see some rotation changes here in the next 5 to 6 weeks, some adjustments to their rotations and their cooldowns, and potency increases. And I think Summoner needs that. I think their damage is low for how complex their job is to play. So if they don't, I look at it this way, and this is what I expect. Square is either going to not change the rotation, but drastically increase their potencies so that it's worth it, or they're going to slightly increase their potencies and they're going to adjust the rotation and the job flow itself. So we'll see which one Square decides to go with. Red Mage right now is playing really smooth. The rotation's really nice from the people I talk to that play it. I do expect them to get some potency increases though, because they're kind of lacking behind even Summoner. So I do expect Red Mage to be getting some buffs, some potency buffs here in the next 4 to 6 weeks. Now for those are the three magic jobs. Now for the physical ranged, Machinist is really playing exceptional. I don't think Machinist needs much of anything. I know a couple people have been complaining a little bit that the rotation's a bit clunky. That might receive some adjustments, but potency-wise, I think they're doing fine. They do bring some good utility to the group. I think Machinist is in a good spot. If you disagree with any of the things I say, though, please comment in the section down below, because I'm not an expert on every single job, only a handful of them, and I really, before making this video, dove in and did my research. But if I'm way off, please let me know. Or if you just disagree. If I'm right but you disagree, let me know. Likewise. So I think Machinist is in a good spot. Bard, I think Bard's utility is still really great. The utility is still really good. However, I think we're going to see some potency increases on Bard as well. They're a little low right now, so I do think we'll see some potency increases with the Bard class. But as far as their rotation, I haven't heard anybody saying that they're not fun to play or anything like that. Hold on one second again. Rozzy! No! I'm going to beat the shit out of that dog. Anyway, so I do think that that's the direction Bard's going to go. It's going to get some potency increases. Moving on now from, I think, Dancer's next. Dancer's utility is arguably, right now, the buff they give out is the strongest utility in the game. I'm really not sure what Square is going to do here. At first, I was certain, before I saw their actual damage numbers, like how much consistent DPS they bring, I was thinking that Square was going to nerf them, but I don't think they will. I think Square, if anything, will do one of two things. They're either going to buff Dancer's personal DPS. They're going to buff the potency of the Dancer, their personal potencies, and nerf their utility a little bit. Or what they're going to do is just leave them as they are. It remains to be seen what they're going to do. I would be fine with either. Personally, I think it would be better if their utility was nerfed a little bit and their own personal damage was brought up a little bit, simply because doing that discourages meta, discourages every group demanding a Dancers in the group for their buff. Their buff is still really nice, you know, like Trick Attack that Ninja has, but it's not, you know, we have to fucking have this, kind of how a lot of people are viewing it right now. So that's just my opinion on Dancer. I think Square is going to go one of those two directions, and we'll see what happens. Okay, now on to the melee DPS. So I'm going to start off with Monk. All I've heard really about Monk, if you're a Monk main, please fill me in here, is that their rotation's a bit clunky and feels a bit like a slog a little bit. But Monk's overall damage is actually quite nice. Monk's damage is really good right now, and they still bring some utility. So I think that Monks are in a pretty good spot. I don't know if we'll see any potency changes on Monk, though we may see some rotation adjustments and fine-tuning. I think that's a possibility. As far as Samurai goes, this is a job I play. Samurai is kind of in the same position it was near the end of Stormblood, where, I mean, they're supposed to be the Black Mage equivalent of the melee DPS, and they're just not there right now. Yeah, they're second DPS in the game overall, but they're still leagues behind Black Mage, and Monk is right on Samurai's heels. And remember, Samurai brings 0 utility. They're the greediest DPS in the game. So I think that we're likely to see Samurai gets quite a few potency increases. I think Samurai needs some drastic potency increases. I think they need to be right up there with Black Mage when played optimally. They should be doing the most damage out of all the DPS. That's how their class was supposed to be, and they're just not there right now because of lack of potency. So I expect to see some major potency increases for Samurai here in the next 5 weeks. That's my prediction anyway. Okay, now some of you may get pissed about this next one. I'm going to go into Dragoon here. I think Dragoon, you can expect to see some potency nerfs. I don't think Dragoon needs to be nerfed really hard, but they do need to be nerfed. The reason being is they bring great utility with Tether. They have great movement. Their damage is, they can really help out their party with their utility buffs. But right now their personal damage is way too high. Like, they're trailing right behind Samurai and Monk, and they're bringing in a Tether. I expect Square to nerf Dragoon a little bit, whether that means they're going to drop some potencies down, whether that means they're going to increase some cooldowns by a bit, or do both. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I'm not familiar enough with Dragoon's rotation to tell you what I would do, but I think that's ultimately what's going to happen to Dragoon. Okay, so, and I think that's what needs to happen. Next on the melee DPS is Ninja. Ninja, expect to see some potency buffs. I really think that Trick Attack is still really good, and it's still really desired by parties. Ninja requires quite a bit of skill, and it's quite an orchestra to play the rotation correctly, and it's very punishing if you fuck it up. And for how hard you have to work as a ninja, the amount of damage that you're personally contributing is not very good right now. So I highly expect to see Ninja get some potency buffs here to bring them more in line and closer to... I don't think they should be doing as much damage as, say, a Monk. Definitely not as much as a Samurai. Probably not even quite as much as a Dragoon. But I definitely expect them to go up with potency buffs at least 800 to 1,000 DPS, I think would be fair, is what they need. So Ninja is definitely in need of some potency buffs. Okay. So that's all the DPS jobs. And now I wanted to save this one for last because it's quite an outcry. It has been before the expansion even launched, is the healer jobs. I know there's a healer shortage in the game right now. A lot of people aren't playing healer. It's a problem. And I think this is part of the problem. It's not the whole problem. I know a lot of people that are playing healer right now that really love it, especially really love White Mage and really love Scholar. I think White Mage is in a great position. I think its damage is great. I think its heals are great. Its cooldowns are in a good spot. A lot of people tell me they love the rotation. I have a couple friends that play White Mage. Their Holy Spam AoE stun is really, really good. They bring you good utility for 4-man groups and for raids. I think White Mage is in a great spot and doesn't need any changes, really. Scholar, I definitely can see getting some potency buffs to their damaging abilities, because I think they needed a little bit. But overall, Scholar's still in a pretty good place. But I do think you may see some damage ability potencies get tweaked upwards, and some cooldowns might get adjusted. The rotation might get adjusted slightly. But mostly potency changes, I think, coming to Scholar in the next 5 weeks. And now the big, elephant in the room, the sore thumb, the Astrologian is in a shit spot. It's probably the worst job in the game right now. And I'm someone who says, like, fuck the meta, but Astrologian is at a huge disadvantage compared to the other two healers, like massive. They struggle in all the content. They can still do all the content, but they struggle, and I think Square's very aware of it. They're very aware that people aren't playing the job now because it's not fun. It's not nearly as effective as the other two jobs, both in damage and healing. So expect to see. I wouldn't even be surprised if they did a full overhaul, much in the way that Warrior got an overhaul at the beginning of Stormblood. We may see that with Astrologian in the first 5 to 6 weeks here. But overall, I think it needs quite a few potency buffs. I think it needs to get back some more damaging abilities. I think some cooldowns need to be reduced, and I think they need their rotation altered a little bit. I really feel like Astrologian needs help across the board. They need everything. So expect to see some major changes to Astrologian. I mean, the first small balance patch, you may, on all the jobs I mentioned, but especially Astrologian, you may just see small potency nerfs, because Square wants, or nerfs and buffs, because Square wants to see all the jobs and how they perform in Savage content, as that's the hardest content in the game, since we won't be getting an ultimate raid for quite a while. So they want that data too, but Astrologian is obvious enough that I don't think they need Savage data to start making changes. Samurai too. So expect to see quite a few changes across the board, potency-wise only, here in and maybe some cooldown tweaks here in the first patch that we get that adds normal mode raids, up to the patch where they add Savage mode raids 2 weeks after that, so 3 weeks from now. But I expect by week 5 and 6, we're going to see Astrologian get quite a large overhaul, and some adjustments across the board for healers and tanks and DPS. But anyway, guys, that's what I expect to see happen. Remember, be patient. Jobs are going to get adjusted. Square, isn't Blizzard. They're not retarded. They're going to figure stuff out. They do make mistakes, and I call them out when they do. But you'll feel so much better about everything if you just fuck the meta. And play what's fun. If something isn't fun, don't play it, and express in a constructive feedback way, to Square on their forums or whatever, why it isn't fun. But if the job that you do think is fun is underperforming and isn't part of the meta, who gives a fuck? Who cares? You're still going to kill content, and you're still going to have fun playing the game. I'd rather have fun playing a job that's not the best job in the game and clear content than not have fun playing the best job in the game and clear content. That's just me, though. So anyway, guys, this has been Raziel. Leave the comments down below, your thoughts, your feelings, what you expect. You think I'm right? You think I'm wrong? Think I should go fuck myself? I think you should go fuck yourself. We'll figure it out. Anyway, guys, you can follow me on Twitch. I don't really use Twitter anymore because it's cancer. So my Twitch channel is on the screen now. I stream mostly Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. I will add in a Wednesday here and there. You'll always see on my YouTube channel when I go live on stream. So if you like my content and you want to hang out on the stream, you want to know when I'm going to go live, and you're not a follower on Twitch, just make sure you hit the subscribe and hit the alert bell here on YouTube, and you'll be notified when I do go live. But anyway, guys, this has been Raziel. Give me your opinions down below, and you snowflakes, come and melt down below. And as always, my friends, keep it real.